the end of the year comes reminiscing on your completed achievements and planning out goals for the next. You all have been an immense part of my journey on RuneScape in 2022, so I wanted to celebrate my achievements with you and let you in on what I plan to make happen in 2023. I'm Rheyo, and welcome to my account tour and 2023 content roadmap. Before we get started, make sure to check the video description for links to my Twitch and my Discord channel where you can get notified of any new video releases, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. Alright, so I want to kick this off with the account tour. This is going to be a live talk through of everything, so expect some imperfections here and there, but I'll keep as focused as much as possible. So the first thing I want to just go over is all of my tabs. So I'll just quickly go through the ones that are just kind of meh. The Infinity tab, this is just the junk tab, and it just collects everything that doesn't have a placeholder right away. Archaeology tab, same deal, nothing special. It just has some old equipment. I pretty much boosted all the way to 120 archaeology by doing the daily excavations or when you send out the research team, daily lamps that I would get from your few daily keys. So I don't have the guildmaster requirement or achievement, so I'm missing out on a lot of stuff here. Maybe one day I'll finish it when I decide to go for completionist, but it's not a major goal for me right now. The invention tab is just a weird mix of arc stuff and invention stuff. That's pretty much it. So I need to just allocate this into another tab. I just haven't bothered doing so yet, but there's a few things in here that I use regularly, like divine charges, the ancient armor, and weapon gizmo shells. Now these next four tabs are my bigger ones, so I'll get into those next, but blue tab is also, I'm not going to be redundant. These are all nothing special, really. They're just things I've kind of neglected. But my goal with this tab in 2023, or really just the future, maybe not this year, is to just kit this out with like some nice placeholders and nice clue placeholders. I used to enjoy clues a ton back in like pre-EOC times, like Zamorak plate bodies and Ceradoman plate bodies used to sell for a few mil. Robins were a ton of money. Rangers were an absurd amount of money. Clues were very fun at that point for me because they just weren't really a super popular thing to do or a farmable thing to do like you do them now. So I really used to enjoy doing clues like that. So this is something that I would like to kind of rekindle in the future because that was a big portion of my RuneScape playtime back when I was in middle and high school. I just want to get into the modern day cluing eventually and just have a tab designated for that. This is my like quest items and holiday rare things and just random cosmetics tab. I used to have this until, like, this used to be a lot more full until the Diango retrieval thing was built into the bank, and what really the Diango retrieval was built into a lot of items and pretty much all items going forward. So this has been a very huge thing for cleaning out bank space, but I just keep a couple random things here and there, like tradable TH rares that come up over time and just the occasional things that I come across. Green Santa outfit, I'll just save those. Gift wrap scythes, frosted wreaths, things like that I'll just keep in here. There's a couple junk items in here, like from this year's Christmas event that I need to get rid of, but things that can't be reclaimed, like the rogue outfit, I just hold on to these because I still need one more piece, and I think if I have a piece I could store it in the house, but I don't, so I don't intend to farm it out anytime soon either. But then black naval shirt, Lord Marshal top, things that you can get for Thaler nowadays, but just a bunch of random items. Then we have the MTX tab. This is cool because it has some golden arrows and War Priest outfits. I have like a couple War Priest outfits from the like Balthazar's raffle or Leonard's Lucky Dip, whatever you want to call it, same thing. I have a couple golden things in here, which I like to just keep in here because it looks cool. But I might, now that they've made them retrievable, I'm probably just going to clear out this tab sometime this year or maybe condense it with another tab because really the only things that I use in here are the experience boosting things. Like the mulled wine and all that stuff. It's just a collectible thing that I will keep each year and maybe sell it to collectors because sometimes they buy it for a pretty decent price and it's just a good little extra way to get some money. But yeah, other than that, it's just proteins and dummies and all that stuff. And I was saving these combat training dummies for PVM content, but ever since they disabled them in instance content, they've just been collecting dust and increasing in numbers. So I don't know, we'll figure out something to do with those. But then as you can see here, there's also just tokens. Then we have the POF tab, which is just a bunch of unchecked animals and then favorited animals. What am I, 5? Just like favorited animals that I can sell to people in World 2 or through the POF Discord whenever I decide to, or just give to people because sometimes it's more of a hassle than it's worth at this point. So this is just the collection tab for that. And then whenever I AFK on IAEA, like if you ever tune into my streams, like the first 5 minutes or just 5 to 10 minutes are just me AFKing in IAEA. So I'm doing something. I get a lot of unchecked dinos for a range at a time, and then bone blowpipe pieces. So just all that goes here. Then now we have the equipment tab. If you've watched my content, you know that I've kitted out best in slot melee and range. So all that stuff is in here. I have not sold any of it. I've kept it all. We have our EOFs. We have all of our ranged EOFs, the SGB, Dark Bow, and ECB. Then for melee, we have the EZK and the Statius Warhammer. And then this is a Gothic Staff EOF that I use for magic now, but this has always been kind of like a trade-off EOF that I'll use for whatever cheap swap I need to use it for. So this was claws at first. You know, if I go back to using melee regularly, I'll probably make it a D long or something else, maybe go back to claws. But for right now, it is the Claws of Gothics EOF for magic because I'm currently working on my magic series, Maniacal Magician. Then I have like all my rune pouches. I have a rune pouch for Croesus. I have my standard PVM rune pouches like the blue, pink, and black. And then the yellow one is what I use for clues. It just has all the elemental runes, law runes, and then some nature runes. So I can alch some stuff on the go if I decide to open some caskets because I get impatient. So there's that. Then I have like ammunition and things to make ammunition, like melee ammunition, like the abyssal armor spikes, cannon, all that stuff I'd pretty much use for combat is in here, gear-wise. Then we go to the supplies tab, which is all of my potions. So as you can see, it's decently organized. You can pretty quickly see where things are. Like I have herbs, I have 4-dose vial potions, like from 4-dose all the way down to single dose. I have extremes, the things to make all the potions that I use very frequently. Then I have all my flasks over here and the adrenaline renewal vials over here. I don't put them in flasks because a lot of the times it's just wasting money for no reason, because it's rare that I ever use more than a dose or two of adrenaline renewal per encounter unless I'm doing something like Zuck. So in that case, maybe a flask would be good, but 9 times out of 10, it's just not worth it. But that is pretty much my equipment tab. I got all of my, my supplies tab, got food, potions, incense sticks, power bursts, all my familiars that I use. And then there's still some organizing that I have to do since I've previously redone this whole tab. And that is incorporating the blessed flask, the super prayers, and the extreme prayers all into this organization up here. And then something that you'll notice if you haven't, or you may not have noticed, is that I keep the capes from the related style in there as not only my like tab marker, but I use it as like a placeholder to keep things organized, but then I'll prioritize usefulness over looks. The Magic Master Cape, I use this for changing to different spell books whenever I'm at my bank, because if I'm using magic, then I want to use ancients. If I'm using melee, then I go back to lunars. If I'm doing clues, then I want to use normal. So I have this within my banking preset. My Archaeology Master Cape, I also keep this in my banking preset because it allows me to swap my relics at a bank. So it's useful to keep in your bank and keep it in a preset. A Summoning Cape is just cool. I like to use it. But the Herblore Cape, I use this when I have to clean grimy herbs that I get from PVM, which is not so much a thing anymore, but you know, occasionally it is. So it's just a very quick way to clean those herbs. Moving on from this tab, we go into the Supplies tab. This is just like skilling supplies. Pretty straightforward. All the elite outfits over here. Skilling potions for when I do Croesus. All the skilling outfits that I use somewhat frequently are in this tab. Everything else that I don't use frequently is just in Diango storage. And then the capes that I use here are all useful, actually. The rune crafting cape is for figuring out the Viswax machine, mining whenever I do Croesus. I have the Gatherer's cape for fishing and mining whenever I do Croesus, but this is also just good. It's got its use. It's also holding a spot in my bank. Divination whenever I'm gathering energies, fletching whenever I do Bloodwood tree runs, if I do them, thieving whenever I go for 120 thieving eventually, and then farming whenever I do farming. So these are all pretty useful skill capes that I keep in here. Other than that, it's pretty disorganized down here when it comes to the seeds, because with the whole farming change, then I've been getting a lot more seeds from PVM. So I need to figure out a way to just incorporate this into my bank so it's not always going to this infinity tab and just getting disorganized. Because I used to just, any seeds I would put in my seed bag, but now it's just an absurd amount of seeds coming in compared to previously. Now the PVM loot tab. This is a mixture of just any drops that I get from Slayer, bossing, what have you. So this is kind of divided into two sections. We have the alchable section up top, and then we have the wishful thinking section down here, which is like all of the loot that I get from bosses, like the unique loot. So the EZK pieces, the staff pieces, or the very wishful thinking Archglacior pieces. So all these different things down here. It's just cool to have placeholders for it. I think it's really just neat. A lot of these I have earned myself and then sold the loot off, but there's some things that I've bought the placeholder for, like the Torva plate body. I've never gotten one, but then when I was upgrading to Bow of the Last Guardian, I stored them in my loot tab because I was using these pieces, so I just made them little placeholders because placeholders are cool. I like to just have my loot tab kind of looking pretty fresh. I might reorganize it at some point, but this is readable enough. It's still a mess, but it's readable enough for me. The main part of it that I use is the alchable section right up here, primarily the bolts. Whenever I'm doing Zami or Zuck, you get a lot of Onyx bolt tips and Hydrix bolt tips. So I will just take out the bolts. I'll keep a regular stock of rune bolts and ascension bolts. Then I'll get Onyx tips and Hydrix tips. I'll tip them after I do an hour or so of PVMing, and then I will just put them into my alchemizers. This is going to kind of segue into the next part of the account tour, which is just the alchemizers that I keep running, and then this will also give you some insight on how I just regularly make some GP. Loot tab, pretty straightforward. We got uniques down here and alchables up top, and then over here we have the alchemizers. So I have 2 alchemizers and a disassembler. The disassembler, I have orbs from Zuck, and then I'll also put like the tier 1 junk items, like the relics that you get from elite dungeons in there as well, because they just disassemble into a bunch of different things. So it's good to have a regular flow of all these components. Alchemizers don't really have anything in them right now because I'm out of nature runes. But basically, if I am not throwing in salvage, just these onyx bolts and then these ascendary bolts, these out for 10.2k each, and then the onyx bolts are about 8.2k each. It's just good regular money to come back to every single day, and it's about, I want to say, anywhere between 15 to 20 mil, not including salvage. If it's salvage, it's going to be a lot more because salvage alks for an absurd amount of money. It's just nice to make the most out of your drops. That's pretty much the bank tour. The overall wealth evaluator says 14.6 mil. Don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it is. Anyways, guys, now I want to get into the content roadmap. So moving on into the content roadmap for 2023, this is going to be a little bit general as I don't want to give too much information away because I want to keep it kind of mysterious, but my overall goals with this channel in 2023 is to create more unique and entertaining series content. RuneScape has a way of letting you play the way that you want to play, and setting your own goals is a massive part of that. I have an idea for 2 series that I consider to be very intriguing that I'll get into during 2023. I've already been ironing out the details, and you can expect the first series to start once my current series, Maniacal Magician, comes to a close. Like I said, I don't want to get into the details too much, but this is going to be a series with self-imposed restrictions and goals that differentiate from the standard Road to Best in Slot or your standard Iron Man series. Both series plots have their own self-imposed restrictions that are very different from each other. I haven't seen either of them done before, so I'm incredibly excited to get into them, and I hope you're going to enjoy them as much as I will. With that being said, I also want to challenge myself in the editing side of my content. I've been doing so with my last few videos, and as enjoyable as they are to put together, I've had to allocate a lot more time aside to complete each video. With these series ideas that I have, I plan to make them more than just background content, and instead make them much more watchable and visually exciting. But of course, if you watch them in the background, that is still going to be an option. That being said, this will probably result in more spread out upload times for series content. So instead of uploading a series video every Saturday, it could become a bi-weekly upload here and there depending on the video. Ideally, I'd like to upload each week, but that will not only depend on the editing side of things, but it will also depend on the length of the grinds within the series that I'm doing. To counteract the lack of series content or the scattered series uploads, I plan to dive into more educational content as well, such as boss guides, occasional tips and tricks videos, and major updates that can use my voice on. We'll see as the year comes around, and I'd love to get your input on content ideas as well. Now, this isn't quite the last video of the year, as I still have episode 4 of Maniacal Magician coming out this Saturday, but if this is the last video you see of me before the new year, I just want to wish you a happy new year. I hope that you had an awesome holidays, and thank you guys so much for all the support in 2022. I'm really looking forward to the rest of 2023, seeing where we can take this channel and just seeing what kind of content we can push out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Rheyo, and I'll see you in the new year. Take care.